Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel Angie B Crafts. Thank you for joining me. So today I have pulled out a few of my AALL and Create stencils. Now these stencils, much as I'm a stencil fan, these are stencils that I'm not very good at using because I don't know why. You can see I do use that one probably more than any because it's dirty. This one I've hardly used. The butterfly I've hardly used. I have used this one a few times. I think this is probably the most used out of them. But I've been inspired. I was watching Leonie over on Hochanda and I just got inspired to use some of my bigger stencils. So I've also pulled out my large Pink Pig art journal. I love the front page of Pink Pig journals because you get pink pigs all over them. They are a UK based company, which is another thing that I like about them. So yeah, I'm using my big journal and I'm going to choose to start with one of these. I think I'm going to go with the butterfly. So we're going to use the butterfly once I detach them. One thing about these is they've got lots of little hooky bits and things, so they do connect to each other quite easily, which can be troublesome at times, but hey ho. So I'm going to use this with some explosion powders and or brushes and see what we end up with. So I've got my explosion powders. I've got a series, I think I've got five explosion powders in front of me, and I'm just going to go for it. I'm not going to worry about which colour's which, I'm just going to go for it, and I'm thinking that needs to be offset slightly. First things first, I'm going to lay down some water. So I'm just using my squirty bottle to get the page good and wet. One thing about these journals is they will take it. There are some little bits of colour already on my stencil and these are beginning to leach off, so you can see it's not a brand new stencil, but it is a stencil I've not used as much as I should have. Right, I'm then going to start sprinkling in these explosion powders. I love this. This one's got red mica in it, it's Juno, and I love Dragon. These are my two favourite. Oh, I love Atlas as well. Oh, I don't know which one's my favourite, I couldn't tell you. It's like choosing a favourite child. I couldn't do it. Now I'm being quite generous with these, which I'm usually not, so we'll see what happens. I'm going to have to put Atlas on because Atlas is my favourite because it's got lots of blue in it. So I've put down my initial layer of water, but I am going to add more water and we'll see what we end up with. Right, I'm going to just start with those three and then squirt on some more water, and that's when you start to see the magic happen. So you're starting to get some movement there, you're starting to pick up some of the colours. I'm thinking I might add some more, why not? If in doubt, chuck on a bit more. Or a lot more in that case. Let's put all of them on, we might as well use every one of them. So don't be fooled by the ones that all look gold, because gold is just the colour of the mica, not the colour of the actual powder. So you can see now we've got oranges, we've got reds, we've got yellows, we've got greens, blues. It's just gorgeous. Okay, so we've got loads and loads of colour on there. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually take a print on the opposite page, and I'm hoping that we're going to get a nice print, but if not, we at least get a nice background. And that's one of the things that I love about using art journals, is it's an experimentation opportunity. Oh, it's actually lifted the stencil. There we go. We know what we're getting on that side because the stencil's lifted onto this side. Oh, don't they look cool? Okay, so you can't clearly see the definition of the stencil, but I do love, you can't see a butterfly, but you can see a blast of flowers on both of them. You can probably see more of the butterfly on that one. Oh, I love how they've come out. Right, I want to actually use this on another piece. For starters, I'm just going to get a piece of card and pop it onto it and just leave that to one side for now, and I will come back to that. I want to dry this off before I start getting it all messed up. So I'll give this a blast with a heat gun. I'm going to be quite gentle with the heat gun because there's a lot of liquid and I don't want it to spread and ruin this beautiful pattern that we've got here. So I'm going to be quite gentle and I'll show you what it's like once that's done. So here we have the dried 2 pages. I think there's still probably a couple of bits that are slightly damp, but you can see on this side we've got lots of richness, and I don't know if you can see, particularly in this middle bit, we've got every colour kind of all mixed together around this area. It's beautiful. And then over on this side it's almost like the paler version of it, because we haven't put the actual colour onto this side, we've just taken a print of what was already here. But what I want to show you as well, because I was saying about these journals being really good for mixed media, so if I turn this page, nothing at all has come through. There's the odd little bit of movement of the card, but none of the colour has come through. It's completely clear. We threw a lot of liquid at that and it's still fine. So I really like that about this paper. It's brilliant. So what I'm going to do is just pop this to one side, which for me means the floor, and I'm going to bring in a piece of card that we had before. So this has just been sitting there, I've not touched it, it's still wet. I'm going to pop my raggy over the top, and the reason I'm doing that is so that if any water leaches out, the raggy will absorb it. Okay, and then let's see what we get. Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. Again, it's a pale version, but it just looks beautiful. I do really like that. So I would continue that. I'd spritz this again and continue with that, but because we're on a video I shan't. But you can get probably 3 or 4 different prints off one stencil when you do this kind of thing. So don't be afraid to keep going and take 2nd and 3rd generation. Just give it a spritz with water and see what happens. Right, so now what are we going to add on to this? Now I have chosen these little, the like beermat material, and I want to say they're from That's Crafty, but I wouldn't swear to it in a court of law. But I think they're from That's Crafty. And if I pop out all these bits, I haven't used these before, I've had them for ages, and they keep sitting there and shouting at me saying use me, and I haven't. I've kind of ignored them. I don't know why, because I think they're really cool. I've just not gotten around to using them. Mind you, that can be said for an awful lot of the things in my studio. Buy things with the best intentions. I still have a screen printing kit that I've never ever used, and I must have it 4 years now, and I've never ever used it. That's terrible. Right, so I really like this, and I want to use it initially as a stencil, I think, and then as an embellishment. From a stenciling point of view, it is quite thick, so you're going to get quite a thick layer of whatever you put on. And I want to do it on this one because I feel like up here I had to absorb some water here because there was quite a lot, so it's kind of got a bit of a leach, and I want to cover that a little bit. And I've picked up my texture paste from iZink, which I haven't yet used. There we go, that's breaking the seal for the first time. With these I always end up having to get these off at a later date. These little tags never quite come off easily. No, we'll not worry about that. Right, so let's pop this on. Let's just do it. If you ever watch any Dina Wakley videos, she's got a brilliant thing about just do it. Don't think about what you're making, just make. And it's true, if we put too much thought into it, if we create in our head almost, then it's not going to be a true representation of what we want, is it? Oh, I like the fact that this texture comes in the pouch, because just doing what I just did was really cool. You can squirt it on. Now I don't know how this is going to work, because number one, it's going to be super thick, and number two, I don't know how this crackle paste works if you put it on thick. I'm not worried about filling all of it, but I do want to, if there's some in, just I might do some divots into it, I think. Because most crackle paste, when you put more on, you get bigger cracks, and thinner layers equal smaller cracks. So this is an experiment, because as I say, I've never used these shapes before, and I've never used the crackle paste before. So we will see what happens. I'm really liking this shape of the flower. I think it's beautiful. So I'm hoping that when I lift this, it's going to be pretty. Oh, I like that. I rather like that. And I also think I'm going to pop that to one side and put my lid back on my crackle paste. I'm not sure I'm going to use that again on this thing, but we'll pop the lid on anyway. I'm trying to get better at looking after my stuff. I'd like to add some colour to that, and I think the best way of adding colour to that is going to be using Pretty Amazing sprays, and I've gone for this bittersweet orange. I love it. But I do also like the Ice Sunshine. So the Ice Sunshine is yellow with a kind of goldy blue of the mica, and the bittersweet orange is orange with an orangey gold mica. So I think we'll use both of them. Give them a squirt. So I'm doing this while it's still wet. So as I say, don't know if this is going to work because I haven't used these products before. I've obviously used the Pretty Amazing sprays before, but I haven't used the crackle paste before. But I like how it looks. If that just dries like that and doesn't crackle, I'd be happy. What I'm going to do is give this a bit of a blast and then come back, because I'm not sure. I can't really work on it while it's wet, and I don't want all of this to leach the colour out. So I'm going to give this a blast with the heat gun again and then come back. So now I have heat set this, and as I thought with crackle paste, what tends to happen is you get this bubbleiciousness rather than crackle if you heat set it. So I would say to you, don't heat set it if you want the crackle effect. What I will be doing at some point is a video showing the different pastes and what they look like when you heat set them, when you leave them to go off on their own. But I just thought I'd try it on here. Now I love how that looks in that corner. So then we need to bring something down here, and I'm wondering if we use this down here. But what I'm going to do is again move my book and play with that on its own. So here we have this. I'm just working on a piece of A3 super smooth card. This is my favourite Pink Frog card. I do love Pink Frog. Is it Pink Frog or Pink Pig? I'm confused now. I get my pinks. Yeah, this is Pink Frog card, and that was a Pink Pig journal. Yes, get it right eventually. So this is starting to go off, and I don't know if you'll be able to see because it's white on white, but they're beginning to get some tiny little crackles. So what I'm going to do is add some colour onto this, and I'm thinking I might go more with the turquoise on this, because we have got some turquoise in the original, but I actually want more texture on that. So you know what? No, I'm going to just go turquoise. Let's just spray onto this, and then I can add texture on. So what you see in here is, number one, I'm going to have a lovely stenciled image underneath, like so, which is rather cool. But because there's two different materials there, so some of it's the beermat, so it's absorbed straight into the beermat, but then there's some crackle on this, and it's sitting on top of that, so you're getting a difference in the colour. So what I'm going to do is move that and add some more, just to darken up some areas. And sometimes it's worth just seeing what is it you want to achieve. And if you don't know, is what you've got in front of you what you want, or do you want to do something else with it? And for that one I wanted to do something else. So you can see very much now we've got darker areas here where the crackle is, and then these they're like a muted tone because it's a cardboard, so it's just sucked all of the colour into it. And if we look on the back of this, you can see where it's soaked through. So that's what you'd expect to see, because this is just cardboard. I'm not going to throw too much more liquid at this because I don't want this to disintegrate, and with it being cardboard it could. But what I am going to do, I've rooted out my Vicky Bouton Creative FX, and this is silver glaze. Now I have hardly used this, and again I've had it for ages. In fact, yes, I thought I had used it. Yes, I have used it, but you can see, look at that. Isn't it glorious? But I have hardly used it. Let me get myself a clean palette knife, or different palette knife. May not be clean, but it'll be a different one. So this is a beautiful, thick, I'll just show you on there. It's a lovely, thick silver paste. I love it. So I'm going to add, in fact I'm going to do it with my finger. I'm going to add little bits onto here, and I want it to peak almost like a lemon meringue pie. That's what I'm going for, that lovely lemon meringue pie look. But I don't want to lose the texture of the crackle and the difference between the crackle and the card. So I'm not covering everything, I'm just covering little bits. Now I have noticed recently, because I'm terrible, and I own up to this, I am terrible at just sticking my finger into pots, and some of my products have started going a little bit funny as a result, because obviously your fingers have got all sorts on them when you stick them into pots, particularly if you cross contaminate. So I'm trying to be very, very good and not do that. So if I am using my finger, I'm using it off a palette knife. I don't know how long this will last for, but we'll give it a go. Quite liking how this looks. I like these. This shape is almost like a stained glass window shape to me. It just makes me think of that kind of thing. Oh, I wonder if we could put something behind it. No, we'll do that on another one. But that's something that I could do with these, is actually put some acetate behind. Now I'm thinking this one is going to bubble up as well. Just let me get my small journal and get one of the stencils. We'll use that one just to finish this off so it doesn't get wasted, and then rub it off my finger. So this is a really good way of just cleaning off any excess, so you don't waste your products. You pay for your product, you don't want to be wiping it off on a raggy or on a baby wipe or whatever. So now again we have the beginning of another page, and that almost looks like rocks or something, doesn't it? Could be the centre of a flower, or could be a pile of rocks. So I tend to have lots and lots of different journals around me. I think I've currently got 4 or maybe 5 around me that I can use to dip into. Okay, sorry, I'm being attacked by a wire there. Right, let's put Vicky away for now. Now the other thing that I've gotten out, and again I haven't used these are brand new, oh, didn't mean to pick those up, is these Eyes Ink Pearlies. Now I only got 2 colours in these, and I got 2 colours that are very similar, so I'm thinking that they might look quite nice through a stencil as well. So I might well do that. I'm going to pop this to one side to dry. You can see that's quite flexible now because it's got lots of liquid on it, so I'm going to pop it there to dry, and then we may have to give it a blast. I'm going to move this out of the way now as well, so that we can bring our book back up. Right, so we're going to have something blue down here. Now I'm not going to do everything, I'm not going to do both pages, I'm just going to focus on this one page. But we're going to have, I'll just bring it in and show you, this is going to be down here. Okay, so I'm thinking maybe we need something here, and that might be an opportunity to use one of the other stencils. I quite like that one. Oh, what about that coming in? That coming in would be quite nice actually. So if we have this coming in, I'm going to introduce, this one is called, what colour is it? Seafoam. I think these are made in France, which is why a lot of it's in French. To support means all surface. There you go. You can learn French while you're crafting. So this is very much an experimental page, so I'm not worried if it goes right, wrong or indifferent, because you can always rescue pages. So don't be afraid of trying. There we go. Oh, I do like the fact that they're in the tube, the pouch even. That's rather nifty. So this is a paint, but obviously it's quite thick. It's an acrylic paint and it is quite thick, so that means that you can add through a stencil and it still maintains its shape. I've realised something recently as well, that we get products, and I've said this before I think, but I've realised how much I do it. I get products and they go on a pedestal and they don't get used. It's like, oh, that's for a special occasion. But if you don't use them, once you open them, then they're vulnerable to drying out, because most of the products that we use in this kind of thing have got water in them, so they will dry out. You can't hermetically seal things. So once you open them, use them, would be my recommendation. Oh, I like that. See, I want to put another one of those now. I want to put one over here. And I'm just going to, because that's what I want to do. So I don't know if anyone else is like me as well. I tend to either like or dislike the smell of my products. This just smells crafty. That probably sounds a bit odd, but it does. It just smells of that. I suppose it's the smell of acrylics. It just has that aroma of acrylics, and it makes me happy to have that smell. So it's not an overpowering smell at all. It's not odourless, but it's not overpowering in any way, shape or form. But it's something that we sometimes don't realise, that products are going to have a smell, because they have chemicals in them. Right. Yeah, there we go. Oh, I like it. Right, let's get my little journal again. Go on the page next to it, and let's just clean this off. So I'm not worried that I've just had to move that, because it's just to get the paint off here and the start of another page in my little journal. I have a plethora of pink pig journals. I have loads of the little ones. I think I probably have about 10 or 12 of these little ones, 4x4 ones, and I love them because they are just great for playing in. And if you kind of cock up a 4x4 journal page, you're not bothered. This is a relatively new one, so it's just got a few little, it's got things like that's a mop-up page, that's a mop-up page, they're mop-up pages. I think that's all that's in it. Yeah, that's it. So they're just really good as little areas to try things or to mop things up. Right, pop my lid back on here so that we don't get it drying out, and then I am going to heat set these so that we can move on. So I shall be back momentarily. So this is now pretty much heat set, and I'll just show you the other side of that page. You can see there's still absolutely nothing has come through. It's brilliant paper, this. These are still just a little bit tacky, but that's fine, we can still work on them. And I've also heat set this, and what's happened with this is because I've heat set it and not just left it, it's bubbled up, and some of the bubbles have burst. So you've ended up with this wonderful texturization of the paste that's in addition to, you can see the spikes there, but you can see there's also some like explosiony bits, and I just love how that's ended up. Now I'm thinking this is down here, but I don't want it just like that placed. I think that looks wrong. I want it kind of just on the end of the page, possibly like that, a little bit more in like that, so it's kind of just following the flow. So I'm thinking if I cut that off, we can have another piece of it up top. That's my thought process. Grab a pair of scissors, let's chop this down. One of the advantages of using this material is exactly this, we can cut it, because it is just like a beer mat. So just because something is a certain shape doesn't mean it has to remain that shape. So I've ended up with lots of bits flying off there. Oops. Oh dear. Right, so I like that there, but I'm thinking then some of these pieces can go in other areas around, and it just pulls it in. Oh, I like that. I think that's rather nice. Right, for sticking that on, I'm just going to grab my tonic glue. So this glue, if you've seen my videos before where I've used this, I struggle to actually squeeze it to get anything out the end of it, so I tend to just use it as if it's a pot of glue. And because these are quite fine, I'm using good old reliable back of the hand. It's a really simple way of getting glue onto the back of intricate things. I'm discovering some of this texture paste isn't quite dry, but that's fine. We can always add more if we need to. So let's stick this one on in the same way, just using the glue as if it's a pot of glue. I do like this glue, I think it's wonderful, it's really thick. Apologies, I've got a bit of a tickle. It's a very, very thick glue. It's a tacky glue, and I like it. I just wish I could get it out of the bottle by squeezing it. Just takes a little bit too much squeeze for me. And then we'll pop this one. Need a little bit more glue. So you can see how thick it's going on. It's almost like a thick butter. Oh, wrong side, a thick butter. I'm trying to remember who it was who I first saw doing this. I think it was probably Jodie from Tonic. This is tonic glue. I think it was probably Jodie that I first saw using the back of the hand, or it could have been Leonie from Hochanda. So I'm beginning to like this, but I feel this is kind of not a part of it, so I need to figure how to bring that in. And I think possibly just changing the colour, because this is all blues and then we've got this stark orange, so we could introduce some of the Atlas, because that's got blue. The blue that's bluey green that's in here is from Atlas. So if we add this on top of here, even if we let's just pop a bit in the middle. Yeah, that is Atlas, isn't it? Yes, it is. And then a few bits around the edge, and give it a squirt and see what that does, because I just want it to be more a part of what's there. See, that colour's just toned down a little bit, and yes, it's running in between, which is fine, because we're then still getting the green, the yellow and the orange, but that's just bringing it in more tonally with what else is going on. So I'm going to leave that, and then I want to figure out, this is my focal area. I want this to stand out a little bit more. Now, I've got black or white in my head as to whether I go with a black pen and start to draw around something, but I don't think I want to. I like the clarity of what that is. I might actually not add anything on there. I might just bring in these edges a little bit and add colour on the edges just to focal point that a little bit more. So to do that, I'm thinking of a darker colour. So if we came in with possibly a grey. Right, let me see what paints I've got and then we'll see what we can add on. Okay, so the paints that I've pulled in, and I don't know which I'm going to use. So I've got Seth Apter's Eyes Ink Ice in Sea Blue. I have got the brown. So that's got marron, which is brown. I then have Ocean in Dina Wakley Media, and I also have this matte chalk paint which is from Cosmic Shimmer. So it's just deciding which of these I'm going to use. So I think the colour that I'm going to use is this one. It's a beautiful kind of tealy colour, aqua colour. I don't really want to go with brown, although, right, let's get a piece of card. In fact, we can do it on here. So we'll have a play on here and decide which bits go. Oh, can I just show you? This is all dried now, so this is when we took the print off, but can you see all that lovely glistening from the powders? That looks really nice. Right, so if I show you this is the Eyes Ink, what's it called? Translucent gel. So it's like a glaze. So it comes out like just a blob of gel, but when you put it on, it actually got, you know what, I might use this colour. It goes on a bit translucent. So you can make it as thick or as thin as you want. I'm just trying not to get it all over my actual page. Right, let's see what happens if we then mix the blue into that. You've got to try these things, haven't you? This is how we learn what will and won't work on our projects. I sometimes find these hard to open because sometimes the lids stick on. If you put the lid on when it's still got a little bit sticking over the top, they can stick on and it can be a bit of a pain. Right, let's see. See those two colours together? I think that might work. Yeah, I'm going to do it. What's the worst that could happen? Let's plop a blob on there. Plop a blob. And just add it with a little bit of texture. So I'm just filling in. I suppose I should really leave some white spaces, but I'm not very good at white spaces, as in pure white spaces. It's not my hallmark is to not leave white spaces. I think I just feel uncomfortable with them. It's like silences. Don't leave them either. So just putting this on. Oh, you know what? Don't like that. But I like the way that's beginning to fill in that space. I think it's just pulling in from the edges. I just want to wipe it off the next page because I don't want it on there. I'm quite liking that. Let's add a bit of the blue as well because we've got blue throughout. What I'm also going to do is actually fold my book back so that I can turn it, because it's all dry now, so it's safe to do that, and then I can turn it and get at the bits I need to get at. Oops. Right, see, that's what it, when it's dry, it goes kind of stretchy. If you get any big dry bits, or I've not tried it actually, I'm wondering, I'm guessing you could actually use this as like an additional medium on a mixed media piece, not as I am at the minute, but actually as like if you lay it out and let it dry and then peeled it off. It's almost like a skin, like you do with some various products. You can do skins on them. Things like Dina Wakley sprays, you can make skins with them just by putting them out on your mat, letting them dry and then peeling them off. This might well do the same. I'm gonna have to try that now. I keep coming up with these things that I have to try. It's hard doing this. Such a tough job. Now, I'm actually quite liking the effect of that coming in. I feel it just closes things in a little bit, but I also think I need to add some other bits. So I'm going to clean my palette knife off, and I'm going to do that just by going over the top of the last cleaning I did here, and it is literally just to clean off, but you can see it's picking up the raised bits on that. Interesting. So it's one of the things that's really useful to use just a page as a clean off, because you never know what you're going to end up with. It's another way of experimenting. I am going to bring in this teal. I'm going to put a bit out on my mat, and I'm going to get a brush and I am going to brush it on. Which brush should I use? I think I'll use this. You know, you have a favourite brush. This is my current favourite brush. It's just the size of it I really like. Right, so I'm just going to pull out a little bit of that and make it a bit more runny. So it's going to act more like a watercolour than an acrylic, which is what I'm after. So it's similar in colour to what we've put down here, but I'm just wanting to add some bits of it in around. I think I need a bit more water on it though. It's a bit thicker than it. That's better. You can even go over the top of some bits. If I go over this, I wonder if I give it an immediate wipe, if that wipes off and just leave it. Oh, it does. See what's happened there? It's actually just left the blue on the in-between bits, but the seafoam colour has stayed as well. Oh, I like how that's happened. So now this is dry, and what I thought we could start using is some other coloured bits, some other pens. So I've pulled up my Poscas and I've pulled out my gel pens, and we'll see what we want to add. I will just move some of these out of the way just to clear some space. Okay, so I'm thinking, I'm really fearful, and this is being honest, I'm really fearful about doing anything on here because I really like that centerpiece, so I don't want to add black or white or anything onto it. So I feel that we need to do whatever we're doing away from that, because I love how that looks. So let's see what we do. So these are metallics, Sakura metallics, and you can tell that they're metallics because they've got the glittering pen lids. I learnt today, I was watching Lou Sim on Hochanda, and she was bringing these onto the telly box, and it was very interesting to learn the different lids have got a meaning and they tell you what they are. So this is an 08 nib, which means it's 0.8mm. Right, so I'm just thinking with these we can start adding in touches of detail, and just because we've only got part of the flower doesn't mean that we can't add in what we imagine would be there if the whole flower was there. So that would be part of that, that would be part of that, so this would be the flower, yeah, okay. And then we can do the same in the others. And this is just, you could call it the finishing touches, I suppose, but I don't know when we'll finish, but it's heading that way. It's starting to add in the detail. What we've done so far has been quite gross, and I don't mean as in horrible, I mean as in big. So now we're just going a little bit smaller, and it's about building up your plan. You start with, I suppose, the foundation, and then you start the brickwork, and then you start with the decorating. So it's doing it all bit by bit. But I quite like these pens, and I've also discovered, right, I'm going to try something. Why am I trying it on a project? This is insane. I think you're mad, Angela. Mad. Right, I'm not actually going to do that. I'm going to do it with a water brush. Yeah, that's got water in it. So I've discovered these actually are water reactive, which I hadn't realised. But you still get the metallic look, which is brilliant. So you still get the sheen and the shine just from putting down a little bit of ink. Fabulous. So I'm just doing a few at a time because I don't want it to dry into the paper, because once it's dried it's less likely to move, or it doesn't move as well, so you'll end up with lines. So it's just about making sure you don't, if you put all the, if I put it in each one and then went back and tried to get it to react, the first ones could well have already dried out and not be as reactive. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to end up with some that have got lines and some that haven't. Going to get one of my Jane Davenport pens, and I'm going to go around the edges and just give this a border and then see how I feel about it, see what I need to add in. So I've gone for one of the small chisel ones, so it's a little bit thicker than the usual lines that I do, but I figure this is a big page so it can take it. And then we'll go down to there. And as you will know if you've seen any of my videos before, I don't do straight lines when I'm doing this. There's a few reasons for that, but the main reason is I find it really hard to do a straight line, so I don't try to. I know my limitations. And then I tend to do squiggles. These Jane Davenport pens are quite good. They will write on most things. I'm not going to say they'll write on absolutely everything, but they will write on most things. But they can dull down a bit as well. They don't remain true black necessarily. They kind of take on a little bit of a grey tone as they dry off. You do them straight onto white. If I show you on a piece of white card, they will remain black. This is one of the chisel ones, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but it's a very, very fine chisel. There's 3 different sizes of chisel nibs. This one is chisel nib number 1, so it's the finest chisel nib. There you go. That's from another project I was working on. So, what else do we want on here? I feel like it's almost done. I don't want to put a sentiment on it, but I do feel like we've got a bit of a gap here. I'm wondering what we could pop on there. Oh, what about some of the bits out of the flower? So we could just build up a pattern using these and have something like this, and have another one down here. Because again, it's another type of flower, it's patterning it up. So what I will do, I'm going to do that. Decision made. Let's add some colour to these. So I want 8 of them if I'm doing 2. Now we only have one middle, but that's okay. We can cope with one middle. Don't even know if we'll use the middle. Let's have a look. So we put one middle in, we'll probably just make one flower, won't we? I think I just like them like this. Right, so we'll colour these 8 up. Let's reference back to here and decide what colour to do. So I don't want them blue because we've got enough blue. I'm quite liking that there's yellow here and there's yellow here. This has got green in it, this has got green going on. That's the old, oh no, there's orange down here because the brown has kind of gone orange. So we've got orange across the place. What about some red? So we could put red on top of there and then another red, and then we've got a line of 3 reds. I think we'll go red. So we will start with seeing what happens when we put explosion powders on them. Okay, now with explosion powders, they are designed to show the different colours that are within that one colour unless you mix them. So if I show you on here, you can see you've got some blues in there, some darker little dots, and it just looks like that they're not meant to be there, but they are. It's the different colours that the base colour is made of. So until you go in with a brush, which I am going to do, you will get that range of colours, but once you start to mix it, the ones that have already absorbed won't disappear because they've absorbed into the, if you remember, these are a card, so they just absorb, they suck in any fluid that you put on top of them. But the areas where there's big bits of the powder, we can get a really nice covering. I'm going to put a little bit more out. What I'm going to do is put it there. we'll use it as a paint. So you can use your explosion powders as a paint. So here they are dried off, and I've also just grabbed my gritty graphite paste, and I thought we could add a little dab of that. Let me find, oh yeah, you're pretty dry actually. So this is how you cross-contaminate stuff. So the graphite is, it's just a stunning colour. It is like pencil lead, but you know that little shimmer that you get from pencil lead? It's like that on it, and it's just gorgeous. And I think that will just, on the tip of each of these, just kind of finish each one off and almost act as the stamen for the flowers, which is what I'm after. I'll show you how it looks, because the first one's already starting. I don't know if you can see that that's starting to get a shimmer on it. There you go. Yeah, I like this. It's got a lovely, lovely finish to it. It's not shiny like the powders have made this, but it's got a glint, almost like you'd see down a mine. There's a little glint to it. I like it. Now I am lucky enough to be on the design team for Pretty Gets Gritty, but let me tell you, the amount of stuff I use of theirs, they cannot possibly give me. I buy an awful lot of stuff from them as well, because I do love it. We did get some nice stuff when I first started, but we also are responsible for maintaining our own stashes, which is probably quite fortuitous for them, because it'd be costing them a fortune if they had to replace my stuff. I'm terrible. Right, let's stick some of these things down. For this I am going to use my Cosmic Shimmer Glue, just because they're smaller pieces but they're not really fine. So I must buy a new bottle of this. There we go. Oop, that wasn't meant to happen. Right, it's decided to have a life of its own. Right, stop glue, you're being naughty. There we are. I'm going to pick this one up and hopefully be able to remove that blob without being detrimental to the overall image. If it is, we'll have to paint up another one. I might not use that one. I'll use my fingers for the others. Because that bottle, have you seen what it's done? It's just gone like a volcano. How very bizarre. Right, hopefully that'll stop it now. And then I'll clean it off. Well, it's never done that to me before. That's a first. So this has got quite a quick grab, and because it's sticking paper to paper. Oh yes, I quite like how that looks. Right, let's put this one at a slight angle that way. You know what, I'm kind of liking this page. Sometimes, well, I think every page I've ever done goes through an ugly phase, and that can sometimes be very disconcerting. It can kind of put you off what you're doing. Oops, I'm getting mess everywhere now because I've got mucky hands. Let me give my hands a wipe. Don't want to ruin the page just because I've got mucky hands. So yeah, every page goes through an ugly phase. It's almost like crafty puberty, where you get pimples and things that you don't want, but it comes out the other side and just looks fab. I'm going to use the one that has the blob of glue on top because I just think it adds to it, because it's not, things aren't perfect. I'm going to intentionally flatten those down a little bit because they're a bit raised. There we go. Oh, I like those. I'm very tempted to do another one. And possibly another one over here would look nice. In fact, I am going to. Right, I'm not going to let you get bored watching me do another one, but I'll do another one in exactly the same way, and once it's on the page I'll come back to you and show you what we're going to do next. Well, here's the almost finished piece. It's now got a third one of these lovely little flowers on, and I have tidied around a little bit, so I've got rid of a lot of the mess. But what I've kept out are two of my gel pens. I've kept my white one out, and I've kept out my, doesn't have a colour on, but it's kind of a pink. Comes out as quite a metallic-y pale pink, but I'm thinking on these new flowers that it might be quite interesting to just add some texture at the ends of them, just so that we've got almost the concept of a dark tone, a mid-tone and a light tone. So we're actually just finishing off the flowers. Now, I'm impressed that these are actually writing on well, particularly this one, because this one still feels a bit damp. I did blast it with the heat gun, but it still feels a little bit damp because it's quite a thick card. But I do think that this just finishes them off, and it also, it's going to cover that glue that we have on. So it's going to look lovely. And then we can use the white one. And for the white one, I'm just going to add some little white dots. Now, this is nowhere near dry. These other ones might be a bit drier, but the one that I've just added isn't anywhere near dry because I haven't dried it at all with the heat gun. So I may need to go back in and add some more dots onto this one once it's dry, so as not to completely ruin my pen, but we're getting there with it. And I think that is pretty much it. I really love this centerpiece, and I'm intentionally not covering that up in any way, shape or form. I don't feel the need to add anything else to it. I'm going to bring it up to camera so you can actually see all the different colours that are within that centerpiece. So the other bit to me is just the peripheral kind of supporting act of this centre bouquet. But I really like that. I don't often do florals, but I've really enjoyed doing that, and I'm quite happy with how that looks. I think probably the only thing that I would add, maybe, yeah, I'm going to do that actually. I'm going to get some of my sorry, I'm getting distracted. Dina Wakley Doodly Doors gloss sprays, that's the word. So it comes to me eventually. Now with the white is thicker, so you quite often need to really batter the end before you can get the ball moving. So don't be afraid of that, it's a lot thicker. Whereas these ones, the ball's usually quite loose. Now I'm not going to paint with them. I'm not going to spray with them. I'm actually going to splatter with them. So I'm just putting this up here because I've got my computer up there and it's already got millions of splats on it, so I don't want to add any more unnecessarily. And just let me get a paintbrush to whack. So I'm going with turquoise and white. I'm keeping it generally off this middle bit. I'm not bothered if some bits go on, but I'm not aiming for this middle bit. I'm changing the direction that I'm coming in from as well, because otherwise it can look like you've just gone all in one direction, whereas if you swap it round, it isn't. There's not a lot left in this, so I'm not getting an awful lot into the tube with each dunk, so I'll probably take a few. I'm not ready to open a new bottle of it yet though, not quite. There's just something very pleasurable about splatting your work with colour when you finish it. Right, now with the white, the same thing. So you even get a different lid on the white. You get that weird thing on the inside. So again, just doing little splats and swap them over to do it with the other hand so they're not all coming from one direction. You tell I'm right-handed. I do it with my left hand and it's very gentle and quite slow. I swap to hitting with my right hand, it's like whack whack whack. Now this splat thing I blame entirely on Julia McNeil from JMC Crafts. If you've not watched any of Julia McNeil's videos, I highly recommend you go and watch them. She's very, very talented. And she's taught me quite a lot over the years. Right, we're done. I'm really happy with that. I'm so pleased with how it turned out. And the finished product, yes, we can't really see that there's a butterfly there, but we know that there is one under here. We've got that lovely floral in the middle, and then we've added different flowers in different ways, which has been quite interesting. It's interesting to see the different layers and the different mediums that have been used. I will just remind you as well, we've also got this to work on at a later date, which was the print that we took. So this is another beautiful piece that we can work on that I'm quite looking forward to doing that one. I don't know if I'll do it on a video or just put it up on social media. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. Thank you very much for spending time with me, and I hope you've enjoyed it and you would like to do something similar yourself. If you've got anything that you want to ask me, please feel free. More than happy to answer any crafty questions that you may have, and hopefully I will see you again. Thanks very much. Bye.